Good Friday morning. Here's Corinthians with a vengeance, okay? This is something philosophically because it strikes me, okay? And I see the let me just say the inadequacy, the not inadequacy, the lack, the wisdom of the world ultimately is not a final wisdom because it cannot confront death. And watch what St. Paul says here. He's dealing with the smartest people in the Mediterranean world right now, the Corinthians, the Athenians. Are you kidding me? If they weren't smart, nobody was smart, okay? These are some of the most learned people on earth. Brothers and sisters, Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, and not with the wisdom of human eloquence. In the world of human eloquence, you couldn't beat the Greeks. Holy moly, Andy, okay? So that the cross of Christ might not be emptied of its meaning. See? Christ doesn't need, the message of the cross of Christ is the wisdom itself. It doesn't need the eloquence of human wisdom. See, watch what he says. The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it's the power of God. The cross is the power of God. See, it's a contradiction. See? For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the learning of the learned I will set aside. Where is the wise one? Where's the scribe? Where's the debater of this age? Now, he's talking to the Corinthians, to the Greeks. Has not God made the wisdom of the world foolish? For since in the wisdom of God, the world did not come to know God through wisdom, it was the will of God through the foolishness of the proclamation to save those who have faith, the simple preaching of the gospel. For Jews demand signs, Greeks look for wisdom. We proclaim Christ crucified. A stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But those who are called, Jews and Greeks alike, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. The weakness of God, Christ crucified. When the Passionists, we have our saying, and so we preach Christ crucified, died, and risen. That's exactly correct. The Passionist charism is is to see all things in the light of the wisdom of the cross. I am so grateful for my Passionist vocation in that regard. I doubt I'd keep the faith if it weren't for it. I mean that. The faith begins and ends on Good Friday. The great mission. He didn't say Easter Sunday. He said Good Friday. See? The wisdom of the cross. The wisdom of Christ. The weakness of God is wiser than the wisdom of man. See? What looks like foolishness is the transcendence of goodness itself and wisdom. And that's really the truth. When he says, where is the wise one? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made the wisdom of the world foolish? When you think of the 20th century, which is the age, the last 300 years has been, in terms of the West, the age of science. What did it give us? Where is the wisdom? Not the knowledge, but where is the wisdom? That all the scientific knowledge we possess, and it is massive and beautiful. God Almighty is massive. Where did it lead us? Did it form a wisdom? It was a technique, a techne. It taught us how to address the world and to harness the energies of the world for our betterment. But was it a wisdom that brought life? Did it bring a communion of humankind? We have the greatest communicative powers, communicational powers that ever known by humankind. We can talk anywhere in the world and even beyond it. We have a conversation when the astronauts were on the moon. But did it bring a wisdom to our lives? The 20th century says it failed. The wisdom of the 20th century was insufficient to keep us from horror. What one pope called a century of horror. And did he ever have that right? And it was the most learned people in the world that produced the greatest degree of horror. Sciences were used in the service of annihilation. Okay? It wasn't the fault of science, but science is not a wisdom. It's a techne. The ancient Greeks knew that. It's a techne. Wisdom is more embracive. And wisdom has to be able to deal frankly with the fringe of rationality, death itself. You have to be able to come to grips with death in order to be able to embrace life. And that only can come, I believe, from the New Testament, because it has to come from Christ. Either you believe in the death of Christ as the wisdom of God, or you don't. But if you do, it transforms your entire vision of life and of the moral code by which we live our lives. We live crucified lives, not advantageous lives, personal advantageous lives. Once you accept the cross of Christ, it radically transforms your view of human destiny and human moral excellence. What constitutes the moral order? I'm stumbling over my words. It isn't personal self-aggrandizement. It's the service of one, the service of each other through self-sacrifice, in our imitation of and identity with the crucified Christ. And in that paradoxical wisdom, in giving our lives, we embrace our lives. We are embraced. Seek yourself, you die alone. Seek the other, you live together. There's a great paradox in life, but I think it needs the crucified Christ to not only show and witness to, but to sanction the sacrifice of love. That's a mouthful. I really mean that, though. The enemy of love, well, obviously is selfishness, is the inadequacy of love. That is, the worst enemy of love is the incapacity, the unwillingness to self-sacrifice, to ask what's in it for me. As soon as you ask what's in it for me, you've already cut yourself loose from the possibility of intimacy. I think I said that in a liturgy this morning at church. So you seek yourself, you'll die alone. You will live and die alone. And boy, my life has taught me that lesson, what I have seen. It hasn't been the infidelity, like sexual or any other kind of infidelity, cheating on your spouse, and like that. It's the failure to be faithful. The heart of fidelity, where you're willing to give everything and sacrifice everything for the one you love. For that person is the center of your life. You don't ask what's in it for me, you ask what's in it for her, what's in it for him. Mm-hmm. And that you're motivated only by the desire to enrich the life of your beloved. To enrich their life, whether it's your spouse, your children, it could be your parents. Whomever it is that you love with a graciousness and a generosity that takes you beyond yourself. I saw that in my own family. My father was not an affectionate man. He was not a selfish man, but he was a man capable of absolute commitment. And I told you the story about him taking the life jacket off. Well, the safety cushion when we were in a boat in a storm and he couldn't make it in. When he tied his life preserver to me, so that if the boat went over, if we capsized, I would survive. And he gave me a simple instruction: get over to those rocks over there until somebody comes and gets you, thinking he would drown. After something like that, you understand the love of God. You understand when God is a father. To me, all I think is my father tying his life preserver to me. Let's say God sending Christ into our lives to die for us so that we can live. That's the essence of it all. The essence of love. See? That's the essence of it all. That's not the wisdom of the world. That's the wisdom of the cross. I'm grateful. I'm a passionist. I'm grateful I came from a family to put love before self-interest. The love of me. My father loved his wife and his sons and was absolutely willing to die for them. How do I know that? He tied his life jacket to me, his safety device to me. You can't argue with facts. They speak for themselves. My father's love spoke for itself. He loved me beyond his love for himself. That's the gospel today. That's not the wisdom of the world. That's the ultimate wisdom of the cross.